state left behind. Just like no child left behind, there's no state left behind. I'm not sure if Heather is here, but Heather actually did some studies on that where she gave us information about where we have issues, not issues, but shortages of different interests. So for example, math education or reading education. She mentioned that the state of Texas and the state of Florida has reading education issues, shortages, right? So the idea is that we have this campaign where other states, higher ed teachers and professors can come in and share their curriculum with us, share their expertise with us, where wherever the shortages are, these faculty can go into it and collect those resources and use them for their own purposes. But if they use them for their own purposes, we wanted to also share some of their resources with other states too. So this is what you're doing, you're bringing people in one area where they can collaborate. So that's the idea behind it. The idea is not to capture them for leads. Of course, that's the idea behind the scene, but again, we want to bring them into one.
Kind of embedding.
Exactly. Because once again, if we can embed this idea of Fishler School of Education, they'll come to us.
When we want them to think, when they think education, they think the Fishler School.
Exactly.
As a resource.
Should we hold the questions so Mike can finish his? Because I want to give people time for the other two presenters.
Sure.
So as we were talking, we have to communicate with the students on the same level that they communicate on. You know, if they're using social media all the time, that's what we need to use to communicate with them. 'Cause like I said, email, and this isn't the case between us here at Fishler, but email is dead amongst the youngsters. Now, how does that impact us? You might be saying, well, we don't teach those people. We don't teach 18 to 24-year-olds. But the people that we teach them. Okay, so we need to teach the teachers that we are producing how to better communicate with the youngsters. Social networks are used to encourage collaboration and can replace intranets and corporate directories and promote non-email communication. Okay, that's the big one, the non-email communication. Now, just like the groups on Facebook, social networks naturally group like-minded individuals or organizations for collaboration. So you want to find people that are doing the same things that you're doing, you can find them on Facebook groups. Contrary to what Peggy said, social networks are full of prospecting, lead generating information for sales. We don't want to beat them over the head trying to market to them. But at the same time, they're going to get the idea that we are leaders in education. Tagging and sharing information and other activities common to social media means that information gets passed around much faster. You can look at several different social media outlets and see the same information being passed around all over the place. Just search for what you're looking for. And last but not least, individuals feel their voice is heard. A recent example of this is the Netflix debacles that have happened in recent past, with them switching to their Quickster service and raising prices as well. Well, there was such a social media uprising about all this that they had to come out and formally apologize for the whole deal, and they've actually gone back on a lot of the changes that they've instituted. So without further ado, let Laura take over.
So kind of as Naveed said, like when we're talking about marketing, like what does that really mean to you? It means if we can highly target the specific groups, teachers within Facebook, we have access to all of this information that Facebook does. And we can specifically target within our demographic mostly our students are women within the age range of 35 to 50. So we're able to gather that information and, market to them, but also remarket to them, kind of creating that awareness that Fishler is here for them. What a greater place, I'm going to just talk about Facebook, is a way to showcase all the wonderful things that we do here at Fishler. We have a lot of faculty that publish, there's a lot of research being done, and this can serve as like our brag board, which brings, some credibility to our institution. Also, main campus does a great job of this. I'm sure if you've liked the main Nova page, we broadcast events, meetings, things for you to go to. We can do that as well as for information meetings and sessions that we want people to go to. We just have to make it a little bit more targeted, and which we can do. We can say, hey, if you're having an information meeting in Macon, Georgia, join us. And then we can add those into our newsfeed as well. It's very cost effective, which is really important. It can also serve as a news aggregate. This was really interesting when we were going through this research several months ago. On several occasions, there's been natural disasters. With Haiti, there were some tornadoes up north, and we sent out little ads saying hey, Fishler is here for you. We're thinking of you. You're in our prayers, whatever. This is a way to reach everybody. Everybody that Fishler touches, we can say, hey, we're here for you, and we're here to support you, and also to have them be in contact with their professors or faculty members. Recently, I went to summer conference, and this was the first time that I had ever engaged with any students. Our international students absolutely love Facebook. They are all over our pictures, but that makes them feel a part of our community, and this is such a great forum for them to do that. Again, I said this is a place for them to feel like they're part of the university. With our students being such distance learners, they don't have that connection to main campus. With the videos, we have a video vault created, and this is a great way. Recently we had, or last year, it was the Teacher Development Days, and I wish we had them recorded because Dr. Green had a wonderful presentation there. She got the students involved. They read a book, and then they had a science project that they could take into the classroom. And this is such a great way if we could just capture that moment, had it in the video vault, and the students can use it. Not just the ones that attended the workshop, but the ones that are on our Facebook. We're giving our students what they want. Our students, if this is where they're spending most of their time within Facebook, kind of like what Mike says, if they're checking their status, within the first waking moments, then this is where we need to be. We need to be interacting with them. And I know that there's some hesitation with the transparency between faculty member and student. And the transparency is completely up to the faculty member. You can share as much information as you like or as much as you would not like. Like Mike said, direct mail is kind of the thing of the past, and email is getting there also. A way we can send out announcements and get our presence known in the marketplace through branding or a specific event is through Facebook, and everybody's using it. Facebook helps with retention rates because we've been there. We're here for you. You know that we're a resource for you. So I don't know what our retention rates are now, but it can definitely help keep that student loyalty throughout the life cycle of their program.
We're open to any questions. If you have any questions. Yes.
Thank you. Title V is trying to work on the retention rate. Judith and me were engaging in the school since April this year. And one of the first questions that we asked ourselves was why there were no more initiatives into this area. Because with the perception from the student point of view is that the school, as an online student, is like a discrete set of courses. You will start the course, you finish the course, there's a void. Then you start another course, finish a course, there's a void. What I mean as a void is that there's no sense of hallways or the virtual community that is needed to make the glue stick together. So we started talking with several faculty, and there was there was a high resistance towards Facebook specifically, because they felt that their own profile was personal. They shared their photos of their kids, their grandchildren, their pets, their hobbies, their jokes. So they felt very private onto engaging into a group, into a fan page, and very resistant. Up to this point, at this date, the same. That's why we decided to design a two-pronged initiatives to try to see what kind of traction can we get into social media or social networking, so we can engage into a larger virtual community that we call knowledge-based social network. That would have, within itself, in the virtual community, will have the delicious that you were talking about, because instead of us members sharing pets, dogs, cats, whatever is our body of knowledge, our body of research, every faculty or every student would have in their profile all their works, their journals, their interests within the academic area, within the academic, their academic needs. So us as students, Navid as an ITD student could research within the school who is engaged in an area that is akin to his interest, without having that faculty or that professor ask his own professor. So, and that's the kind of thing that we're doing. We're piloting right now with Facebook. We have a mentoring group that Michael has helped us to set it up, and with Google Plus, another mentoring group. And EDD 9200 is also trying to see what kind of traction. If we get the kind of traction that we want, I'm sure the fifth floor will engage into a formal social knowledge-based social network that will be amazing. The experience will be like getting out of the class and visiting at office hours our faculty, our professors that we don't know about, and we have like 60% of our faculty are outside of this campus. They are all over the world. So it's imperative. It's a real need there that needs to be addressed. So I love the idea. I think kudos for you guys, because I know you're trying really hard, and it gets a lot of work to get that kind of traction here.
I just want to kind of address like a couple other points.
I think that was, I'm sorry, but I think that was good to hear somebody reiterate what we said about the faculty resistance to Facebook and technology in general.
And I mean, the only way to really get past that resistance is for somebody to feel comfortable with it. We don't want to force anything upon anybody to try something that's new.
They feel comfortable, but in a personal level. They don't feel comfortable in the professional level.
A couple of remedies possible is to create a separate Facebook page for your professional self. And also, if you want to integrate it into your coursework or into your syllabus, you can say, my Facebook hours are from whatever to whatever.
Right.
I won't respond beyond those times. So there are some little ways that they can integrate it without, being fully accepted of it. So.
I like that, because with my Facebook page, I've got some people on there that I don't really want my colleagues to see some of the stuff they post. And so, yeah, I mean, because it can be embarrassing, so I like the fact that you should pull out.
Maybe have separate accounts. You can link one to your Nova email and then one to your personal email.
Separate email account, and you can have a separate
And it's not, I know that there was hesitation, I've heard from some faculty members that it's just an added thing to do, which is unfortunate, because this is for our student. If this is what they want, if this is how they want to communicate, we need to give it to them. So it should be embraced.
Yeah, I think you would have more faculty members participate if they knew about it. I mean, some of us have not been approached or are not aware of this.
That's a good point. Perhaps we could have
Actually, right now with this initiative, we are still in the staging. We're still preparing it, but we do have a plan of talking to faculty and letting them know that this is something that we're doing. So of course, we'll come to you.
Okay. And secondly, just quickly, there's I pursued a research paper on marketing in higher education, and there's a lot of emphasis on neuroscience and neuromarketing. Are you in that area in any way, shape, or form?
myself, no.
Are we doing anything in that area? Because that seems to be the trend. And the bottom line is, Branding and neuroscience are the ways to go now in marketing, education, higher ed. Just a point of information.
Could you explain what neuroscience is?
Neuroscience is actually having someone going into an MRI and seeing where their eyes go into reference to the let's say a picture or a video or something like that, and what attracts their attention and creates excitement and it creates their interest, and then makes them want to act to do something.
They're looking at a lot of consumer buying through that. Stanford University is doing some research in that area.
Stanford, Harvard, and Oxford University are doing research in that area right now. Good to find out more information.
For marketing.
Okay, great. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
So you talk about faculty being resistant to social media. Okay, and you have to bear in mind that the over 35-year age group are those people who are suspicious of technology, security, and so forth. Obviously, the younger people are less concerned, or they're probably comfortable with it. So that is something that needs to be addressed when we talk about faculty use.
I'm index suspicious over 35 years. I'm not suspicious of the technology. I'm suspicious of who's getting the information that is extremely private to me. Wells Fargo Bank knows as much about my finances as my wife. That means his counterpart at that organization, who I don't know who that person is, who knows as much about business I do as my wife. It's none of their business.
Right.
And that's what is suspicion. It's the loss of the use of your personal freedom and privacy. It's not that the fact we have a new tool to move communication, that has nothing to do with it. It's how that information is being used. I used to work for the federal government. I had access to an awful lot of personal information about a lot of people. And if that information falls into the wrong hands, look out. My wife, who is also a federal official in law court, has had her identity stolen here in Florida. And we're now dealing with the state attorney. And it all was picked up on an electronic basis, and you have to be careful. And then you have to protect not only your employee, but your student as well. Because I've gotten messages on Facebook from people when I'm talking to my daughter privately. And there's no protection.
Right, and see, especially with Facebook, what happens is that it depends how you use it. It all depends how you use it. If you want to share your own personal information on Facebook, that's up to you. I mean, the tool is designed in a way so it can be used in any different.
Try to protect it.
Exactly. And
I mean, those walls are terrible.
right, and speaking of Wells Fargo, I mean, if you go across the ocean, I mean, on the other side of the world, people know about our information more than we do. So I mean,
There are downsides to technology.
exactly.
Yes. That's the kind of resistance that I'm talking about. It's not a question of resistance to technology. It's a resistance of the loss of information, of fraudulent usage of them. There have been cases of stolen even social security, but that's kind of the personal decision of what information you're sharing. Either way, the thing is that we're trying to do with these piloting groups is to see what kind of traction, what kind of good use can we have and go into a formal knowledge-based social network that will be private. One of the developers they work and they have a social network for NASDAQ, for people who are really investing and putting money, and it works very well. That's the kind of things that we are aspiring as Title V to invest, so we can create that sense of community, that sense of warm connections that we already promised to the Department of Education so that we could get this grant.
Okay. As long as people are protected.
No, that's the most important thing. And their intellectual property as well.
Thank you. I just feel like I'm hearing a lot of wonderful, things going on, and so I commend all of you guys for all your hard work, because it's definitely necessary. But I'm also hearing a need for training and usage.
Yeah.
Because what it comes down to is the information you put out there is what's out there. You don't put it out there, it's not out there.
Right.
And so there's a need for training on how to use it, specifically if you're using it for professional purposes. Like you said earlier, you can create a Facebook just for Fishler faculty. You could call it that. My Facebook for Fishler faculty, and these are the groups, these are the hours. So I think, I understand, the fear. My mom went through it too. And, I sat down with her, I helped her create an account, and so now she feels more comfortable because someone actually showed her what her options are. So I think, in addition to, bringing it up to faculty, also making sure you let them know what their options are, what the training is, and stuff like that. Because obviously you fear what you don't know.
Right. And actually, you have a very good point, and we'll definitely do that. Dr. Brown.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. City Life sounds great. Thank you for your endeavors in this field. It's really spot on targeting, and I have 3 teenage children, and they all want to be adults, and they're not using email. They're using their thumbs and multitasking. My question to the group is a question of concern. I was one of the people that raised my hand when they asked me to use Facebook. I use it 3 to 5 times a day. I enjoy it. But my concern is, in the last month or so, they've changed more than 2 or 3 times with different things going in the margins. There's a lot of pushback from my friends using Facebook, a lot of frustration. And then this means like things that are said, like Mike mentioned, or like Netflix. Yeah. So my question to you, my colleagues, is it just Facebook was the obvious choice because it's the largest, and what was the criteria, and what kind of guarantees, or at what level is the administration working with them, or will work with them to ensure that these pages don't become convoluted and people get frustrated with that? If the appearance stays the same, they're user-friendly, you'll get traction and what people will do. I haven't had friends in the last 3 weeks to say, forget Facebook, I'm going to Tumblr, I'm going somewhere else. So if you could address, I know that sounded like a lot. Basically the question was why choose Facebook and what are the safeguards?
Well, we have to start from somewhere. Right now we don't have any good presence on any of our social media outlets. So Facebook, once again, is the largest, we have the largest population there, about 750 million plus users are out there. So the idea is to at least get into that bandwagon and I guess going. YouTube for video purposes, that's something that we're using now. So we have to start from somewhere. Google Plus just came in 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and they have up to 20 million users now. So I'm sure this will become also a very huge outlet.
Yes. In reference to what you're saying, could we start with something like SkyDrive and then have it closed to NSU students and faculty, and then get familiar with it, and then the teachers would enjoy it more as we're teaching on?
They could, but again, the question is why limit ourselves only to our students? Why not just open
I was thinking in reference to having more user-friendly for professors as they start into it, and once they see that there's no harm, then they can go into a Facebook. Because 9% of the news you hear often is you get in trouble when you go on Facebook. I was looking this morning, some guy was on the beach and he claimed an accident, and now the insurance companies are going through Facebooks and seeing who's doing what where. And they said, how can you be on a beach when you're in an accident? You're supposed to be sick at home,
That's right.
So what I'm saying is that
I read that article also, Clay.
That's right.
And there is an invasion of
for comfort status, I mean, something like that would be a good start, or a start.
We'll look into that. We actually, you thought that would be a good idea to get into, and this is actually the main campus initiative too. They're also running into social media.
Facebook?
Facebook.
Are there any, could you show us, are there any other universities that are into Facebook that have been successful, and the people who were negative at the beginning have become positive?
Sure. As a matter of fact, when you log into Facebook, look for the University of Phoenix. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that's the name. The University of Phoenix is one of them. Is there? Stanford University is there. Kaplan is there. Capella is there, and they have campaigns too. And they're doing a pretty good job there.
without knowing their statistics behind the scenes, we can't see how successful
They
they
are.
are in their endeavors.
Because
I mean,
closed groups.
we can't really see that. But they're there.
Now-
They're not doing what we've planned.
Now, how many of you are on Facebook? I didn't see you. Did you all like the Fisher School Facebook? All of them? Yeah?
If you haven't, you should.
If you haven't, then go ahead and like us, because we get there. That's the idea. Because if you don't like us, then you're not going to be able to participate. Okay? Yes, sir.
One of the things Mike brought up in his presentation was about adaptation. I think that we definitely need to move into this sector extremely aggressively. We're going to learn some things as we go along, but say something else pops up that's the new fad, we'll have experience, we'll have a track record, we can quickly get right on that and keep going. People are going to be there, but even if we lose some people and they go to somewhere else, once you have a presence there, boom, we're right there, we get them back and keep going. So, got to be able to adapt, because it's going to move with or without us.
Right, because you see, we didn't have Facebook in 2003, right? But who knows what's going to come next? So Google Plus is now, so we have to once again adapt to it.
I'm trying to keep quiet, but let me say a few things. I always ask people, well, what is your competitive edge? And as I look and heard a few minutes ago, Levy talked about those universities, and most of the universities that he cited to you were those for-profit colleges and universities. Let's be realistic. Within 30 minutes, I can drive throughout this community and find 5 or 6 for-profit colleges and universities. And they are here. And so we can either get involved in this change so that we can continue to stay on the cutting edge, prepare the position open to be ahead of the curve, out of the box, and all these other kind of things. Or we can continue to be left behind. And as I said earlier, I'm an old timer, but I learned one thing earlier, that if you don't speak the language that these young people use, you will not communicate with them. And let's be realistic, is that we have to change, we have to adapt. And all of this is great stuff. And if we are going to compete, if we are going to try to maintain some type of competitive edge, we have to continue to change and adapt. And yes, a lot of this I'm not comfortable with. I remember several years ago when the website came out, and that, like so many professors, I had done it the old-fashioned way. I've been here long. I had done it the old-fashioned way. And the big challenge for many of us is that we are embarrassed to come and say, I don't know how to do A, B, and C. Can you tell me to do step 1? Hold on, let me write it down. Step 2, hold on, let me write it down. And wait a minute to let me walk through it and see if I stumble, and then you hold my hand.
Well, you're right, but you also have to know whom to ask.
Yeah, so
we don't know that either.
So let me tell you what I did. So I called the official down on the main campus, who's the head of WebCT, and I said, look, I don't want to go to a meeting and be embarrassed with my colleagues. I'd like to make an appointment with you to have a one-on-one. And let you hold my hand and walk me through and allow me to take notes. Because I don't want to get with and among my colleagues and make a fool out of them. So I went there, and she closed the door and she walked me through. The good news is that I subsequently taught my class and I made not one mistake, not one boo-boo. And I'm so proud of myself. So I would like to say this, that, we who are not comfortable, we who don't know, have to come to these kind of sessions to learn. Because the bottom line is that if we don't speak the language that these young people use, we will never ever communicate with them. That means that when you ask people, well, why would you choose to go to Nova rather than to another institution? You've got to have something that they can hold on to and relate to. And if we don't provide the education delivery system that caters to their specific and individual and particular needs, they're not going to enroll. And we're not going to have them there to teach. And we're going to suffer in terms of revenue and layoff and everything else. So I would like to say this, is that we have to continue to change and adapt to make sure that we prepare and position our institutions where we can stay on the front line of the competitive edge.
That was a great point, Dr. Hogues. If we don't change, we'll just be left behind.
I support that, thank you. Those were great points. Dr. Hogue started today talking about looking at current practices, things that are going on now, and impact. All these things impact now are very present. So we are going that way. The third topic Dr. Hogue mentioned was best practice.